Welcome to the You Big Talker Talk Show.
You Big Talker Talk Show.
I'm your host, Eleni.
And I'm your co-host, Rob.
One of us is dressed well. I just noticed this detail here. Very nice, very
Thanks.
nice. Where'd you get this suit?
Shout out to my ma, who one year bought me a nice suit.
Oh yeah, in Harlem. Mm-hmm. We are broadcasting live from South Philly for the last time this season. You're going to find us next year, 2021, in New Mexico, Las Cruces, where we're staying for the winter.
Yeah, I'm super excited to do a little camping. We got some new gear.
Thank you to Mark Reben for subscribing, and thank you to Mom, Ruth, Caitlin, and Bonnie for tuning in and your comments. On today's show, we have two skits. Let me just tell you, whether or not you think they're funny, I hope you do, but I'm up here laughing. Rob hears me.
It's great.
From
She's
downstairs.
like a mad scientist. I'm down there reading. She's like, ah, ha, ha, ha. And I hear typing, ah, ha, ha.
The first one is on a band who can't find their gig, which we'll talk about in a second.
Right.
And the next one is based on the Great British Baking Show. Speaking of the first skit, conspiracy theorists accuse the Four Seasons Landscaping of money laundering for the DNC, then burning Trump votes in the crematorium across the street. It makes sense.
And it's not, they're ripping the ballots in half. So like just the people who voted for Trump get burnt, but the people who voted for like Republican seats and stuff, they still got their vote.
Oh yeah, somehow that worked out.
Yeah.
Spotify Wraps, everybody got one. And apparently I listened to 1,172 new artists. Those artists would have a lot more money if Spotify paid us well. Not surprisingly, my top genre was indie rock. And then I had jazz and hip hop were my other top ones.
What about the...
and freak folk.
And also from all the yoga sessions that we do.
that didn't appear. I was thinking about, we saw the trees blooming. It's December. If one can feel bad for a flower, I kind of do. I was also thinking about, I was reading this story that a woman was posting about her struggle with addiction, and so many of us need to escape the cruelty of life, and we do so in various ways, whether it's substances that we use or drinking, including video games, movies, anything. Like I escape it too, and just... And then I was thinking, like, if we could grade life, what grade would you give life? Not your life, just in general, like the concept, the execution, so to speak. Before I tell you what I was thinking, what grade would you give life?
I'll give it a B+.
Wow, this is why we're together. We need this balance. I was thinking more of a D.
Wow, really?
No plus or minus needed. And people might say, well, why don't you just leave? That's not the point. I think it's just, the overall structure, cruelty.
I think it's amazing how the planet how it works. I think it's pretty cool. That's just me, though. Dead silence.
I have nothing to say.
Yeah.
It's almost like I'm stoned, but I'm not. Speaking of trees, I wanted to share a photo of my mom's Christmas tree and our Christmas tree, just as sort of a contrast. Which do you think is mine? Any guesses? Google Maps. Have you been getting flattery from Google Maps? They say how many people are reading my reviews.
All the time. I'm like, really? Yeah.
Have you even written reviews for Google Maps?
Yeah,
Google?
yeah, here and there, just for fun.
I got a notice. It said 8,000 people have read my reviews, and it said answer a popular question. And that question was, where can I buy catnip on the Upper West Side?
Wow, that's important.
Yeah, we have a global pandemic, and that's the question.
That's funny.
I guess I should grow catnip. So we have a very special show for you. I interviewed Rob's friend and my friend, Jovan. He's a conductor in addition to practitioner of Aikido, and he had some super interesting things to say. Any bands out there, have you ever gone to the wrong gig? This is for you. They end up at a destination you might recognize. It was a little bit in the limelight for election season.
Hi, I'm Carl with Channel 5 News. We bring you the breaking news, the unbreakable news, and the break-free news, like a Kit Kat. I am here with half of the illustrious duo, Ken, Clover. Where's Kitty?
Far out, man.
You are called the Four Clovers. Are those four distinct clovers, or are we talking about four-leaf clovers with one clover?
No comment.
Ken, please tell me about your four-leaf clover nursery gig.
It's gonna be wild. You should get there early. It's gonna sell out, man.
Oh, not a good sign.
Hello, Four Seasons! I'm Kitty Clover.
And I am Ken Clover. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
We're so excited to be here for our winter
This one's
dig.
based on my man Vivaldi.
On the first day of Christmas, much love gave to me.
Can't busk here.
We're not busking, we have a gig.
Not here, ma'am.
But don't you like Vivaldi?
Got the wrong Four Seasons. Here, maybe meet this place.
Turn right, then your destination will be on the right.
I think that's it.
Can you please drive my car? Drive my car? Sure. This place has the Four Seasons, but not the gardens. I think it was some kind of nature garden space. Let's go while we can.
This is the right one, I can feel it. How about you?
Yeah, man.
Where's the crematorium?
Your destination is on the right.
Real nice location. Really like what they've done with the place. How about you?
Groovy.
Where's the audience?
Look, there's someone.
Oh,
No. We just do failing presidential press conferences with 2-bit mayors. I think you're looking for a nursery.
now we don't have to carry these heavy amps by hand.
Take the next left on the state road.
Maybe it's nursery. A little young for our typical crowd.
They like their culture strenuous.
Let's go.
95 south.
We're doing the news interview now, not the gig.
Now we would like to introduce our very special guest, Jovan Zivkovic. Rob's good friend from Aikido and a maestro.
I'm music director of Washington Conservatory Orchestra. It's a large community music school in Washington, D.C. Conservatory experience has been extremely supportive and a wonderful collaborative place to be and to work.
I took a look at the two Zoom excerpts that you sent me. Tell me a little bit more about how do you do it? How does the Zoom work?
It's usually between 25 and 35 people on a rehearsal on a Zoom. It took me 2 weeks to see what's going to happen, and I had a conversation with some of the members of my orchestra, and I spent some time trying to think, why are we doing what we are doing? Well, I found what we are doing now to be maybe a better way for us to stay together, to express ourselves, rehearsing in the rehearsal process and being together and having a chance to see other people. And there was a couple of evolution and some tweaks, but this is what we ended up with. And it's been a lot of fun. I actually pull a recording, a good recording. I think I send them parts, and then we all get together and everybody played their part with the recording. The benefit of it is that they can tune to the really good sound. The problem is that we're not really making collective sound. However, with all that's been said, this is the best that we can do in this time. There is no good substitution for a live recording, and I cannot wait for all of us to go back together and play together and make music together.
What does it mean when you count? You were counting at certain points.
It's a standard part of the conducting orchestra language that's been taken away. In order to make up for that, I yelled the numbers to help people to orient themselves.
What kind of feedback have people given you so far about participating in the Zoom?
It was a learning curve for everyone. At the beginning, it was like, this is not going to work. And it's like, well, actually it works, but it's kind of weird. It's like, well, yeah, it's not, and I was constantly repeating, this is not the substitute for the rehearsal. It's what we are doing right now. It was stunning to me how quickly it became a very important part of the schedule. We meet once a week, and my job is to select the program, conduct all the rehearsals, conduct the concerts.
What brought you and your wife to Philly?
We were in Louisiana for long enough. We were looking for a more urban environment. Before coming to US, I lived in a city and I lived in a countryside. The whole concept of suburbia is something that's fairly American. I kind of always felt that you get disadvantages of both worlds because you still have traffic jams, you still have, pollution, congestion, all of that. And then you don't have the advantages of an urban environment, such as a good public transport, cultural events, public parks, and everything else. Now, Philadelphia came in place for a couple of reasons. It's on the East Coast. It's perfectly located between a couple of large centers, itself being a large center too. And also we had some friends here who helped us at the beginning, and my wife is born in a city, so that's what brought us to Philadelphia.
How do you like South Philly?
I love South Philly. It's great. You can walk or bike anywhere, which is at this point really important to me. It's a wonderful, diverse community. Our workout in a park, really, it's amazing how many different people you can see every single day. Last Sunday, we were practicing Aikido in a park, and there was a whole bunch of kids riding bicycles, and that was great. And there was an open market where I found a really great local apples. And then at some point, there was a jazz quartet that installed themselves on a lawn and play for about an hour, and and all of this is going in the midst of the pandemic, and everybody are wearing masks. And that's fantastic. And that's South Philly, and I love it.
So you grew up in Serbia, right? You were born?
Yes, correct.
Okay. What's your earliest musical memory?
Singing in a living room with my mom and my dad while my dad playing guitar. And I was, I don't know, 3, maybe? It was not a rare occasion. Both my parents are, physicians. They are all MDs, but they both love music and they both play an instrument. And we were always, singing and playing, and there was some kind of a music in the house since I remember. My dad is a committed jazz player. He loves it. There is a photo of Louis Armstrong coming to Belgrade, and then my dad and his band who managed God knows how to sneak out on a runaway. Louis Armstrong who walked out the plane, and they were playing on a runaway. And at the beginning of 90s, right when the war started, we moved out of the city because city life became very complicated and very dangerous at the time. I was young when it started and not so young when it ended.
How do you feel like that 10-year time period impacted, I guess, how you see life?
You cannot go through that experience unimpacted. How you respond to it, that's what makes a difference. With the Civil War, in the first 5 days, 2 things happened. First, you realize that people are capable of doing things that you could never imagine. And then the second thing is that things you see and learn there, you are never able to fully forget or put aside. It stays with you, one way or another. I remember when the pandemic started. I think that we were all together talking, and there was a lot of some fear and some uncertainty. Oh my God, what's going on? And I remember I said, guys, is this your first end of the world? And I got quite a look. And it's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, is this your first end of the world? It's like, yeah. It's like, okay, it's fine. It's gonna be okay. This first, we're in a country that's organized, which is not the case around the world. It's gonna be a bit uncertain, and then it's gonna settle, and then we're gonna figure out a way. Living through the end of the world, it's quite an experience. With all said and done, I was really, really lucky.
What led you to becoming a conductor or a maestro?
So I really wanted to go to a music school. I was asking for that and pushing for that. And then my mom said, okay, fine. So I was 5 years old, and she took me to a music school. And then sometime, I think second year of music high school, I completely accidentally got a chance to conduct the choir.
Had you ever conducted before?
Not before that, no. It's a very different beast to kind of learn all of that and then to stand in front of the 80 people. It's like, so, and you wave your arms. When the sound happens and it's amazing. And I remember doing that in the first rehearsal, walking home completely mesmerized. And I said, okay, this is what I want to do. I had a concert again in my hometown years later. That concert went so horribly off the rail. And I remember that after the concert, I rushed into green room and I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe it. And everybody were super happy that we just showed and did the stuff. I'm like, damn it. But it's important to live through that in order to learn how to recuperate, how to pull stuff midway through in a better direction, how to live it yourself after.
What would you say is the role that music serves for humanity?
Brings happiness. It brings fun. It forces people to move. It forces people to respond. There is a line by Dostoevsky, beauty will save the world. I don't think that he thought that the world is going to become, heaven-like place. I think that it's a bit more gloomy. I think that there's going to be a window that some people are going to be able to jump through and save themselves. If it's only for that, it's already worth it.
How did you discover Aikido?
I've been drawn towards the traditional Japanese martial arts for a long time now. Once I moved to Philadelphia, it's like, okay, finally now I can find a really good dojo and start doing it properly from the beginning. And that's how I started doing it in Philadelphia. And with Old City Aikido, I've been super happy. It's a wonderful community of people that I would recommend to just anyone, and I've been enjoying it tremendously for the last 3 years. One of the most eclectic communities that I've ever seen anywhere around the world. For the lack of better word, an impressive collection of oddballs in a best possible way.
What do you feel like Aikido does for you?
Very similar to music. It requires undivided focus. If you drop your focus for a split second, you will get smacked in the head with a wooden stick mercilessly. We are counting on each other so that response is timely. The understanding is that we are focused on what we are doing in a way that's done properly and timely and with a full energy and engagement. That type of engagement, it happens in the music. That slow, painfully slow, incremental process is something I tremendously enjoy in Aikido, in music, in life in general.
So the state that you're talking about, though, in music and Aikido and things that you like doing, it seems like so opposite of how most of us spend our time on social media. You don't get a chance to be in that flow state. And
music forces you into that. If I'm working on the opera, it's 2.5 hour long thing. The symphony is 45 minutes long. If you want to run it twice, it's 1.5 hours. If you cannot skim through the score like you skim through the feet, you need to go note to note. My problem with the social media, important things happen, but when they happen, we all kind of know. Most of the time, what fills the feed is what somebody thinks about something, and then even worse, it's what somebody think about what somebody think. So it's like, this happened, and then person A said something about it, and then person B said, but the person A's, and I just don't necessarily care. People I care for, I ask them for their opinion, and we talk about that, and that's it. And the rest of the people, I don't care what they think to the level that I need to be attuned to that for such a long time. I would rather spend time doing something else. And I know that this might sound crude, but that's how I feel. I would much rather turn off my phone and go and walk in a mountain or practice Aikido in a park or, read a good book, listen to the music. There's plenty of things I would do much rather. The fact that you think that you're thinking doesn't mean that you're thinking. Something crossed your mind, that's okay, but that's not formed idea yet. Run it again. Then try to say it out loud when no one is around and listen to how it falls. There's a ton of stuff that crossed my mind and then I dismiss it immediately, and sometimes I'm ashamed of it. That's a natural process, but that's how you start refining and polishing and distilling and, shaping it into some kind of an idea. Then it's necessary to bounce it, but not with the world. You bounce it with the few people that they're good bouncing boards and you can have a conversation. It's not about me defending my idea because it's the best thing in the world ever. It's throwing it out and seeing how it bounces. Is it relevant? Does it gain any reaction from anyone else? Does it inspire people to give it a thought and then put some of their spin on it? Rarely, after a lot of work, some of those ideas evolve into something that can stand on their own.
What do you feel like is the most difficult thing about being alive?
The certainty that it's going to end at some point, understanding that time is limited and it's often wasted.
That was so fun. I love what Jovan said about this is not the best way, but it's what we have now. And I think that attitude or that way of thinking is so useful in life in general.
It helps move you forward for sure. During the quarantine, Eleni and I have been watching the Great British Baking Show.
We thought, what happens to the worst of the worst bakers? Fortunately, I had just made a really terrible batch of sugar cookies.
Welcome to the British Baking Show. 1, 2, 3, bake!
Are you more relaxed in your pajamas, Francis?
Yes, mate. Very relaxed. The key here is not to overwork the dough. Then it becomes flaky and not crunchy, and you need that snap.
Interesting technique.
Now, when we're looking at the cookies, we really are looking for a crisp break for the cookie. We're looking for form, we're looking for story.
I've never seen such a monstrosity. What is this guy, kicking? And what do you call this? Is this guy in a car accident? And if this is a candy can, well, blimey.
We're looking for a philosophical view from the cookie to the mouth and back and then in the stomach again. We are looking for the ultimate biscuit, a life changer. Time's up, bakers. So, Francis, today you've cooked for us some sugar biscuits. They were supposed to be 12 biscuits and it looks to be about 4. What happened to the rest of them?
I don't have this belly for nothing.
That might disqualify you, but let's see.
Show us what you've baked.
I have here a biscuit made with sugar and wheat. I was in a rush. I had to fix the sticky bit here and here, but I'm hoping when I do my frosting that they'll never see it. My mama used to make this for us when we were kids, and her mama before that. So I know it's gonna win the judges over.
And did you use a special flour for these cookies?
It's a family recipe that I can't quite give away on national TV.
Well, I have access to the flours that you used, and it looks like you used a whole wheat flour.
This candy cane looks like it had chicken pox. What happened?
There was a little bit of problem here, but once I put the frosting on, you'll never know it's there.
Is that the North Star?
It's actually the East Star.
Who is this little man?
This little man represents my papa.
This curious shape here, it's sort of like a yin-yang.
What is this odd, misshapen cookie?
Actually, it's a Christmas swan. Can't you make out the beak? And the nice wing?
See how the biscuit breaks.
Yes, I believe there's a snap.
It must be a very clean break. You almost have to hear the little flowers screaming. Ooh, let me put it in my ear. Oh, yes. A little overdone, Francis. A little overdone. All in all, a good effort.
Wow!
Now we're moving on to It's Just Food. So there was another myth just debunked, blood type and your diet, but this study came out basically showing there's no relation between blood type and, say, a vegan diet. The researchers instead suggest that plant-based diets are beneficial for people of all blood types. There's some other exciting news. Singapore was the first location to issue approval for cultivated meat, as known as lab meat as well. Eat Just is the company that produced this chicken, and they basically describe it as real, high-quality meat created directly from animal cells for safe human consumption. The CEO of Eat Just said, "We've been eating meat for thousands of years, and every time we've eaten meat, we've had to kill an animal until now." Which is huge. Still eat the meat you love. You don't have to have any suffering involved. I think that's pretty cool.
And also just the environmental impacts of not having factory farming. It's huge, right?
Right. And I thought it was interesting, the language in the article. It said, the meat business has long faced criticism from animal rights activists who argue that eating meat is inhumane. So the way that's phrased is interesting to me because it reminds me of, I had written about objectivity in journalism and Halen's spheres of consensus. It says in this article that activists argue that eating meat is inhumane. But is it really an argument or is it a fact? Anybody objectively would say that, keeping a pig in a cage so it can't turn around, shocking it occasionally, cutting its throat, that isn't what we call humane, boiling chickens alive, etc. Right. So it's not really an argument, but where we are in our culture, it's not accepted yet. And so basically this spheres of consensus talk about different issues and topical areas we as a society agree upon. And those topics, say like women's right to vote, go from deviance to controversy to consensus. So animal rights at the moment is still in that sort of controversial phase because you wouldn't say something like, feminists argue that women should vote. It's just, it's an agreed upon.
That's a good point, yeah.
That's showing me that we still have a bit of ways to go in terms of how we view animals in society. Speaking of, Mayoko's was in Forbes, or Mayoko, the founder. She's amazing, and her cheeses and butters and everything are something that even people that are hardcore, like only dairy from a cow, love her product. Her products are at 20,000 stores now, including places like Walmart and Target.
Miyoko's, it's really good.
It's made from nuts and oats and legumes, so it's like all, natural things that are healthy for us to eat. It's not calorie free, but either is cheese. So she also said the demand for her products has been at an all-time high. Holidays, what are you making?
I'm going to make the spinach bread, add filled roast, add different types of Miyoko cheeses, and I'm going to bake it.
Apple pie, cookies.
I love it. Cool stuff.
For work, I came across the NVivo AutoCode Sentiment Wizard.
Whoa, what is that?
I know, that's what I said. It gives you the ability to auto-code comments. And it's not perfect, but it basically picks up on words that we say and is able to show, if it's negative or positive. Reading. You're on Goodreads?
I'm on Goodreads.
Come find us on Goodreads. So I just finished reading Teach to Transgress by Bell Hooks, and it was written in, I think, something like 1993, but I read it due to my former boss who was talking about that influencing the way he teaches and looking at race and racism in the classroom, or not sort of giving all the power to the professor, sort of discounting the value of the knowledge of the students in the class. Right now I'm reading How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi. I started reading Heal Women. Thank you, Jenny, for the recommendation if you're watching. And then Rob is reading
Desert Solitaire. That's great since we're leaving to the Southwest. I love his opening line in the book. The way he describes the desert, the way the sun hits his trailer. I guess there's so much detail in what he's saying.
That's cool. Shout out to Big Al, my mom's husband. It's his birthday today.
Happy birthday to you.
I've heard he doesn't watch our show, but that's okay. When Rob and I lived in Harlem, we used to go to this, what's known as one of New York's only jazz speakeasy locations, Bill's Place, and it was on 133rd. We lived on 155th, but so it was semi-close. You can walk a couple miles away.
It was nice.
Yeah, we took some family there a couple times. We went. He's having a holiday concert, so I just got us tickets, by the way.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, of course, it's virtual. I'll put a link in our description so you can go as well, but it's jazz holiday favorites, I think.
Let's move on to movies. Days of Heaven, recent movie that we saw. It's supposed to be the Most beautiful film
Ever made.
Ever made. And
Yeah, 1978. And beautiful cinematography. I recommend it if you haven't seen it. It was stunning. Rob's renovations.
Wow, what do you get there? Tiny table?
this base was in front of a funeral home, and the guy's like, "Yeah, take it. It's yours. Enjoy." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." It's like this heavy. I drew a circle here, put a nail in with a string and a rope. I ended up cutting it and sanding it, and I did the first coat of poly, and I'm just kind of doing some fine sanding right now. I did.
And you're making a Japanese footstool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, can you just fix a couple things around the house and then make your Japanese footstool?
It's my zen.
Can
it's
we
like
plunge
my
the
zen
sink?
place. Like,
Can we plunge the sink first?
I did fix what she asked, by the way. It took.
Yeah, you did. I was very happy.
Pounded out concrete and put a new metal vent in the sidewalk to stop the leaves and trash from blocking our sewage.
Hard labor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for watching this video. Or
Hit
if you
the
like
subscribe button.
subscribe or like the video
Or
and
hit the bell.
comment. This is the last episode of the season until January, when we'll be reaching out from our temporary new home in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
And have a great holiday, and be safe.
Stay away from your family.
That's
Do we have to tell you that?
Apparently.